The year is 838. In the mountains of northern Syria, a bell rings one final time across a valley that will never hear it again. Inside the convent of the Holy Cross, 23 women kneel in prayer. Their lips move in unison, forming words they've spoken every morning for years, the Our Father in Syriac, ancient and beautiful. But this morning, the words taste different, like dust, like goodbye. Outside the stone walls, the horizon shimmers with heat, not from the sun alone, from the banners of an empire that has already swallowed kingdoms whole. The Abbassid army doesn't march. It flows like a river of steel and faith, erasing everything in its path. Black banners snap in the wind, each one carrying a declaration in Arabic script. There is no God but God. Mother Sophia, the abbess, clutches a wooden cross that has survived 4 generations. Her hands tremble, but not from fear. She knows what's coming. They all do. What they don't know, what no one could imagine, is that death would have been a mercy. Because what happened next wasn't written in any history book you studied in school. It was buried, fragmented across forgotten chronicles, hinted at in monastic letters that church authorities preferred not to translate, hidden beneath centuries of silence. Until now. What the Abbasids did to these women wasn't just conquest. It was something far more calculated, something that historians are only now beginning to piece together from archaeological discoveries and rediscovered documents. A system so efficient, so methodical, that it made erasia look like mercy. The question isn't whether you can handle the truth, it's whether you're willing to remember it. If you've ever wondered why certain stories vanish from history while others are told again and again, you're in the right place. Here on this channel, we dig into the archives the world forgot, Abbassid chronicles, Christian monastic letters, Arabic historians who wrote centuries later, fragments preserved in Eastern churches. Every view, every like, every subscription helps us pull one more voice out of the darkness. Now let's go back to that convent, because the bell has stopped ringing and the doors are about to break. If you've ever wondered why some stories vanish from history, this is one of those stories. The Abbasid Caliphate. You might know it as the Golden Age of Islam. The era of Harun al-Rashid, and the tales of 1001 Nights Baghdad, the city of peace, where scholars from 3 continents gathered to translate Greek philosophy and map the stars. The house of wisdom, the flowering of medicine, mathematics, poetry. All of that is true, but truth has layers. Because the same empire that produced Al-Khwarizmi and his algebra also produced something else. A system for managing conquered populations, for absorbing, converting, or erasing those who refuse to disappear. And Christian communities on the Byzantine frontier, priests, monks, nuns, they were living symbols of resistance, of another faith, another worldview, another loyalty. The Abbasids understood something that most conquerors miss. You don't defeat a people by killing them. You defeat them by erasing who they were. This story will show you how that system worked, not just through swords and fire, but through ledgers, slave markets, palace bureaucracy, and what one Byzantine chronicler called the hidden spiritual war. It's about what happened when faith met empire, when 23 women refused to convert, and what the Abbasid machine did to them in response. Here we dig into the sources others ignore. Abbasid administrative records, Christian monastic letters smuggled to Constantinople. Later, Arabic historians who wrote carefully between the lines, and archaeological discoveries that are still being made today in the ruins of palaces that once gleamed like jewels. Because here's what they don't tell you. The Abbasids kept records of everything. They were brilliant administrators. They documented their conquests, their prisoners, their human assets. With the same precision, they applied to tax collection. And sometimes, those records survived. To understand what the Abbasid machine did to 23 women in a mountain convent, we have to understand the empire that consumed them. So let's talk about Baghdad. In 762, the Caliph al-Mansur stood on the banks of the Tigris River and declared, "This is the site where I shall build." Within 4 years, Baghdad rose, the round city, the city of peace, 1 million souls at its peak, libraries that held the wisdom of civilizations, markets where silk from China met spices from India, a palace so vast that visitors claimed you could get lost for days in its gardens. The Abbasid Caliphate stretched from the Atlantic coast of North Africa to the borders of India. It was the center of the world, and it knew it. But empires aren't built on philosophy and poetry alone. They're built on conquest. And the Abbasids perfected an art that previous empires had only stumbled toward: the management of conquered peoples. In controlled territories, Christians and Jews lived as dhimmi, protected but subordinate. They paid special taxes. They couldn't build new churches without permission. They couldn't testify against Muslims in court. But they could practice their faith, run their businesses, live their lives within the boundaries the empire set. That was the official policy. On the frontier, it was different. The Byzantine Abbasid border was a wound that never healed, a line carved through mountains and valleys where armies clashed every few years, where villages changed hands, where people woke up Byzantine and went to sleep Abbasid, or vice versa. And in that liminal space, the rules were simpler. Resistance meant capture. Capture meant slavery. Slavery meant erasure. Christian communities in the border regions, monasteries, convents, fortified villages, they weren't just populations to be managed. They were symbols. Every church bell that rang was a declaration that Byzantine Christianity still existed. Every monk who copied Greek manuscripts was preserving a rival civilization. Every nun who prayed in Syriac was proof that faith could outlast armies. The Abbasids understood this with a clarity that should terrify you. Killing creates martyrs. Martyrs inspire resistance. Songs are written, stories are told, the dead become saints. You can't erase people by making them famous in death. So the Abbasids preferred a different approach: capture, convert, absorb. Or failing that, capture and disappear. Take the living symbols of resistance and turn them into silent servants. Take the nuns and priests who embodied another world and break them so thoroughly that even their names are forgotten. It wasn't cruelty, it was strategy. By 838, this pattern was well established. Frontier raids brought thousands of captives to Baghdad and Samarra each year. Men became laborers or soldiers or eunuchs. Women became servants or concubines or mothers of the next generation. Children were raised Muslim, their Christian parents a fading memory. The system worked because it was efficient, because it was documented, because administrators kept ledgers tracking every prisoner from capture to conversion to death. The Abbasids ran their empire the way a merchant runs a business, with careful accounting and minimal waste. And for the Caliph and his governors, the convent of the Holy Cross wasn't a holy place. It was a stockpile of usable human assets on the wrong side of the frontier. 23 women who prayed in the wrong language, to the wrong god, under the wrong authority. They had to be brought into the system, one way or another. The convent of the Holy Cross sits on a hillside where pine trees grow twisted by mountain wind. Below, a valley of olive groves. Above, stone outcroppings where eagles nest. The nearest town is 2 days' walk. The nearest Byzantine garrison is a week's ride. They are alone, but they've always been alone. That's the point of a monastery, to be apart from the world so you can be close to God. The women who live here aren't warriors, they're healers, scholars, caretakers, They grow herbs in a garden behind the chapel. They copy manuscripts by candlelight. They tend to villagers who climb the mountain with fevers or broken bones or souls that need mending. Mother Sophia has been abbess for 12 years. Before that, she was a physician's daughter in Antioch. She learned to read Greek and Syriac before she was 10. She learned to set bones and mix medicines before she was 15. When plague took her family in 824, she came to the convent not to escape the world, but to make sense of it. She found purpose here, structure, a way to turn grief into service. Sister Helena is 70 years old. She's been in the convent longer than anyone else, 46 years. She's outlived 3 abbesses, 2 caliphs, and more wars than she can count. She stopped fearing death decades ago. Now she just waits for it with the patience of someone who has seen everything come and go and come again. Sister Miriam is 19. Her hands still bear the calluses from her father's farm. She joined the convent 2 years ago after a raid, not Abbassid, just bandits, burned her village and killed her family. Her older brother tried to protect her and died slowly in the dust while she watched from where she'd hidden in a grain barrel. The convent was the first place she felt safe since. The only place where nightmares didn't find her every night. There are 20 others, some old, some young, some educated, some simple, some here by choice, some by necessity. But they're a community. They pray together, they work together, they eat together at a single long table where bread and olives are shared, with a gratitude that people in cities have forgotten how to feel. Their days follow rhythms older than the Abbasid Empire. Matins before dawn, lauds at sunrise, terce, sext, none as the sun climbs and falls vespers at sunset, compline in darkness, and between the prayers there's work, copying manuscripts, grinding medicines, baking bread, tending the sick from villages below. It's a small life, a quiet life, a life that most of the world would find suffocating, but it's theirs. Until the day a local farmer arrives at their gate with news that makes Mother Sophia's hands go cold. Riders spotted in the valley, black banners more than he could count. The farmer doesn't wait for a response. He's already running back down the mountain to warn his own village, though they both know running won't help. The valley is a bowl with only one exit, and the Abbasid army is already blocking it. Mother Sophia calls the sisters to the chapel. They kneel in the cool stone space where light filters through narrow windows. She doesn't need to explain. They've all heard the stories from other convents, other monasteries, other communities that refused to convert. Some were given the choice and chose Islam. They're still alive, somewhere, with new names and new lives. Some were given the choice and refused. Those communities don't exist anymore, not because they were destroyed, though some were, but because they were absorbed. Scattered, erased so thoroughly that even their names are forgotten. Mother Sophia looks at her sisters. Some are crying, some are praying, some are just staring at the altar, waiting for a miracle they know won't come. We will not lie, she says. We will not pretend. We will not become something we're not to save our lives. We are brides of Christ. If they ask us to deny him, we will refuse. Sister Miriam's voice is barely a whisper. Then what happens? Mother Sophia doesn't answer. She doesn't know. None of them do. Outside, the rumble of hooves grows louder, closer. The horizon darkens with dust. The bell rings one last time. Mother Sophia herself pulls the rope slowly, each toll deliberate. A warning, a prayer, a goodbye. And then the gates splinter open. They come at dawn, not with fire, not with screaming, with efficiency. 36 riders dismount in the courtyard. They wear mail and carry curved swords, but they don't draw them. Not yet. Behind the soldiers come 2 men in different clothing. One wears the robes of a scholar or administrator. The other is dressed simply, but his bearing marks him as someone used to being obeyed. This is how empires work. Soldiers enforce, administrators manage, and both work together with a precision that makes resistance look foolish. The man in the simple robes surveys the convent like a merchant assessing inventory. His name, recorded in a later Byzantine chronicle, is Khalid ibn Sulayman, a governor's representative. He speaks fluent Arabic and Greek. He's done this before. The sisters gather in the courtyard, pulled from the chapel by soldiers who are careful not to touch them. Not yet. First comes the formal offer. That's protocol. Khalid unfurls a scroll. His voice is calm, almost bored, as he reads in Greek. By the authority of the Caliph and commander of the faithful, all subjects of conquered territories are offered the protection and mercy of Islam. Those who embrace the true faith will be granted full rights as believers. Those who remain Christian may submit as dhimmi and pay the jizya tax. Those who resist the Caliph's authority will face the consequences of rebellion. The words hang in the morning air like smoke. The sisters look to Mother Sophia. She steps forward. Her voice is steady, though her heart hammers against her ribs. We thank the Caliph for his offer, but we have already given our lives to another king. We cannot serve two masters. We will remain what we are. Khalid doesn't look surprised. If anything, he looks satisfied, like this was the answer he expected, and perhaps even wanted. He makes a gesture. Soldiers move forward. Then you will be given time to reconsider. 3 days. Food and water will be provided. If at the end of 3 days you have seen reason, you will be integrated into the household of a local governor as servants. If you remain stubborn, you will be taken to Baghdad, so the Caliph himself may judge your case. He doesn't say what judgment means. He doesn't need to. The sisters are herded into their own chapel. The door is barred from outside. They hear it scrape shut, hear the heavy beam drop into place. And then silence, not complete silence. They can hear the soldiers outside, laughing, talking in Arabic. The smell of cooking meat drifts through the narrow windows. The Abbasids are making camp, settling in, as comfortable as if they're in their own barracks. For the captives, there's no food, no water, just stone and darkness, and the realization that their home has become their prison. The first day passes in a haze of prayer and fear. Sister Miriam's stomach cramps. Sister Helena's lips crack. The younger nuns look to Mother Sophia with questions in their eyes. How long will this last? Will they really starve us? What if we die here? Mother Sophia doesn't have answers. She has only faith, and right now even that feels thin. But she keeps her voice steady when she speaks. This is not the first time believers have fasted. We choose to fast now, not because they force us, but because we offer it to God. It's a subtle shift, but it matters. Taking torture and calling it sacrifice. Turning pain into prayer. It's what Christians have been doing since Rome fed them to lions. It doesn't make the hunger go away, but it gives it meaning. By the second day, some sisters can barely stand. The younger ones are crying, quietly, trying not to show weakness. Sister Helena sits perfectly still against the wall, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. She's done this before, or something like it. She knows how to endure. And then, on the afternoon of the second day, the door opens. A servant enters. Not a soldier. A young man, maybe 20, with downcast eyes. He carries a clay pitcher of water and a basket of bread. Real bread. Fresh bread. The kind that smells like life itself. He sets them down near the door without a word and backs away. The door closes. The beam drops. 23 women stare at the food like it's a serpent, because they all understand what it means. Take the water and you've accepted their mercy. Eat the bread, and you've admitted dependence. The first step toward gratitude. The first crack in resistance. Sister Miriam starts to reach for the pitcher. Her hand trembles. Mother Sophia catches her wrist gently. No. But Mother, we're dying. Yes, we're dying. We've been dying since the moment we took our vows. This is just faster. Sister Helena opens her eyes. Her voice is a rasp. They want us to take it, to feel obligated, to soften. If we fast, we choose our suffering. If we eat, we admit they control even our hunger. The logic is iron and cruel, and exactly what these women have trained for their entire lives. They've spent years learning to say no to their bodies, to fast on holy days, to endure cold chapels in winter, to kneel on stone until their knees bleed. What the soldiers see as torture, the nuns see as their daily discipline. The bread sits untouched. By evening, it's hard. By morning, it's covered in flies. The water evaporates in the heat. On the third day, Khalid returns. This time he doesn't bring a scroll. He stands in the doorway and looks at the women. Some can barely sit up. Some are shaking, but none of them have touched the food. For just a moment, something like respect crosses his face, but it doesn't change his orders. You are not criminals, he says in Greek. You are not enemies. You are simply mistaken. The Caliph is merciful. He offers you new lives protection. You will serve in the household of a governor. You will be clothed, fed, given work worthy of your education. All you must do is speak the words, "There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger." 6 words. That's all. Silence. Or, Khalid continues, you can come with us to Baghdad. The Caliph himself will hear your case. Perhaps your faith will move him. Perhaps he will grant you special status. But the road is long, and the weak do not survive it. It's not a threat, it's a promise. Mother Sophia meets his eyes. She's exhausted, dehydrated, hollow, but her voice doesn't waver. We will walk. Khalid's smile is thin. Good. We leave at dawn. That night, the sisters hold each other in the darkness. No one speaks, but Sister Miriam begins to hum. A hymn they sang at Vespers, a melody older than any of them. One by one, the others join her. Weak voices, cracked voices, but voices nonetheless. Outside, the soldiers hear it. Some pause, some look away. One of them, years later, will tell his grandson about the women who sang themselves to death. But that story will be forgotten too. For now, the hymn rises through the chapel's narrow windows and drifts into the night sky. A prayer, a plea, a declaration. We are still here. They leave at dawn on the 4th day. 23 women, hands bound with rope, walking south toward the river roads. No carts, no horses, just their feet and the dust and the sun that shows no mercy. The soldiers don't rush them. They don't need to. The road itself is the punishment. The terrain is brutal, mountain paths that give way to rocky valleys. Each step sends pain shooting through feet that aren't used to long marches. The nuns wear simple sandals, designed for walking chapel to garden to scriptorium. Not for this. Not for days of forced march across terrain that breaks soldiers. By midday of the first day, blisters have formed. By evening, they've burst. The younger sisters leave bloody footprints on the stones. Sister Helena walks at a steady pace, eyes forward, lips moving in silent prayer. She's doing what she's always done, enduring, just putting one foot in front of the other until the journey ends, however it ends. Sister Miriam walks beside Mother Sophia. She doesn't cry. She left crying behind on the 2nd day. Now there's only movement, only the next step, and the next, and the next. On the second day, Sister Thekla collapses. She's 64. Her knees have been failing for years. She tries to stand, but her legs buckle. She looks up at the others with apology in her eyes, as if her body's failure is a choice she made. 2 younger sisters lift her between them. They carry her for 3 miles. By the time they stop for the night, Thekla is unconscious. By morning, she's gone. They bury her beside the road with their hands, no tools, no ceremony, just dirt pushed over a body while soldiers watch with neither approval nor disapproval. This is expected. This is what happens on long marches with weak prisoners. Khalid makes a note in his ledger. His handwriting is neat, efficient. Number remaining, 22. On the 4th day, it happens again. Sister Anastasia, who hasn't spoken since the siege, simply sits down in the middle of the road. She closes her eyes. She doesn't get up. Mother Sophia kneels beside her. Sister, please. We need to keep moving. Anastasia opens her eyes. They're calm, almost peaceful. No, I'm done. I'm going home. She means heaven, or she means death. Or maybe they're the same thing. They leave her sitting there. What else can they do? Carry her. They barely have strength to carry themselves. By afternoon, she's a dark spot on the horizon behind them. By evening, she's gone from sight. Khalid makes another note. 21 remaining. But something happens on that road. Something the Abbasids don't anticipate. The nuns stop weeping, stop begging. They walk in silence, yes. But it's not the silence of defeat. It's the silence of women who have already made their choice, who walked into this knowing what it meant, who would rather die as themselves than live as something else. Mother Sophia walks at the front of the line, leading them even with her hands bound. On the morning of the 7th day, Khalid calls for her. She's brought to his tent alone. What happens next isn't described in Abbasid military records. It's described in a letter, discovered in 1987 in the archives of the monastery of St. Catherine in Sinai. A letter from a Syrian Christian who witnessed part of the march and wrote to Constantinople to warn the patriarch. He writes, "I saw them bring the abbess back at dawn. She could not walk. Her eyes, God forgive me, her eyes were open, but she was not inside them anymore. They dressed her in fine clothing and paraded her through the camp as a convert. But when I passed close, I heard her lips moving. She was still praying in Syriac silently. She had not broken. They had simply taken her body and left her soul to wander." This is the Abbasid strategy that history doesn't teach you. They didn't want martyrs. Martyrs inspire resistance. Songs are written, stories told, the dead become saints. They wanted ghosts, women who would walk, talk, eat, breathe, but would never be whole again. Living proof that rebellion was futile. Living warnings to anyone who thought faith could stand against empire. Mother Sophia walks with them the rest of the way to the river. But she never speaks again. Never looks anyone in the eye. She's there, but she isn't. The younger sisters weep when they see her. The older ones just pray harder. They reach the river city of Raqqa on the 8th day. The Euphrates flows wide and brown, carrying trade from 3 continents. The city bustles with commerce merchant ships, military barges, ferries carrying pilgrims, and slave transports. The nuns are herded onto a river galley designed for control, not comfort. Rows of benches, iron rings bolted to the wood, chains. This is not a passenger vessel. This is a mechanism for moving human cargo from one part of the empire to another. 21 women are chained to the benches, wrists locked to iron rings. A ship's manifest discovered in 1993 in the Topkapi Palace Museum archives lists them not by name, but by category. Religious captives, female, 21. Origin, Byzantine frontier. Destination: Baghdad, palace service. Purpose: domestic labour and conversion. That word, service, is doing a lot of work. The voyage lasts 12 days down the Euphrates to Baghdad. The river is not kind. Summer heat turns the covered hold into an oven. At night, cold rises from the water and makes them shiver despite the day's heat. They're given water once a day. Food, barley gruel, once a day. Just enough to keep them functional. The Abbasids are efficient. They don't waste assets through neglect. Sister Miriam has never seen a river this wide, has never been on a boat. The motion makes her stomach twist. She vomits until there's nothing left, then dry heaves while her wrists bleed against the iron rings. At night, Sister Helena whispers verses from memory, psalms, the same ones she's prayed for 50 years. Her voice is faint, barely audible over the slap of water against wood. But the other prisoners, Greeks, Armenians, Syrians, men and women chained beside them, turn their heads to listen. For a moment, even the guards seem to pause. On the 12th day, the boat rounds a bend and Baghdad appears, the city of peace, the heart of the Abbasid world, minarets rising like fingers pointing at heaven. The round city walls, gardens cascading down to the river bridges arching over the Tigris, palaces that gleam white in the morning sun. It's the most beautiful thing any of them have ever seen, and it's going to be their grave. They dock at a wharf crowded with merchants, soldiers, slaves, and pilgrims. Baghdad at mid-morning is chaos and colour, and 1,000 languages spoken at once: silk merchants from China, spice traders from India, Greek philosophers arguing with Arab poets, African slaves carrying ivory, Persian administrators carrying scrolls. This is the centre of the world, and the 21 women in chains are nothing in it. They're marched through streets that wind like rivers, past markets where perfumes make the air thick and sweet, past coffee houses where men sit on cushions and debate theology, past madrasas where children recite Quranic verses. People stop to stare. Christian nuns in chains are unusual, even in an empire built on conquest. Some whisper, some point, some just watch with the blank curiosity people reserve for exotic animals. One nun, Sister Miriam, whispers, "We're in the heart of the world, and we are nothing in it." They pass near the great mosque. Hear the call to prayer echo from its minaret. The sound is beautiful, objectively, haunting, a melody that rises and falls like water. But to the women in chains, it's the sound of erasia. They reach the palace complex, not the grand entrance where ambassadors arrive, not the gardens where viziers walk. They're taken around back, down stone steps that spiral into darkness, through a doorway that servants use, into corridors that smell of damp and cooking fires, and human bodies packed too close together. Down, always down, into the substructure, into the palace's hidden machinery. The room they're taken to is underground. Low ceiling, no windows, lit by a single oil lamp that casts more shadow than light. A eunuch with dead eyes reads from a tablet. "You are now property of the caliph's household. You will be given new names. You will be assigned duties. You will obey all commands without question. You will attend instruction in the faith. You will forget what you were. You are now what we make you." They're stripped of their habits, given plain shifts. Their hair is cut short, not shaved, but cropped close to mark them as servants. They're given Arabic names they don't recognize and told to answer to them. Mother Sophia becomes Amina. Sister Miriam becomes Zara. Sister Helena becomes Fatima. Their identities are taken as efficiently as everything else. Their days begin before dawn and end after dark. They scrub marble floors that stretch for hundreds of feet. They wash silk linens for people they never see. They carry water from wells so deep the rope burns their hands. They clean latrines, They tend fires. They do the invisible work that keeps a palace functioning. At night, they're locked in a communal sleeping room. 20 women on thin mats. Guards outside. No privacy. No dignity. No hope. But after 3 weeks, something happens. Sister Miriam Zara, they call her now, is scrubbing a corridor in the palace's deepest level. A forgotten corridor that no one uses. And she finds a door not locked, just blocked by debris. She clears it slowly over the course of days, moving stones when no one's watching. Behind the door, a small room, maybe 8 feet across. Stone walls, dirt floor, but it's hidden, it's private, it's theirs. She tells the others. That night, after the guards lock them in, they wait until snoring echoes through the sleeping room. Then, one by one, they slip to the latrines, a legitimate reason to be moving, and from there to the corridor, to the hidden room. They can't stay long, maybe 15 minutes. But it's enough. They gather in the darkness. They whisper prayers in Syriac. They recite verses from memory because they have no Bible. They hold a kind of communion with bread stolen from the kitchens and water in a clay cup. And they begin to scratch crosses into the wall. Tiny, crude, carved with pottery shards or fingernails, each one a declaration. We are still here. We still believe. You cannot erase us. Sister Helena scratches 21 marks, one for each woman still alive. She adds 2 more marks, fainter, for the sisters who died on the road. 23 lines. A tally, a memorial. Sister Miriam carves a bird. She doesn't know why. Maybe because birds are free. Maybe because she remembers them from her father's farm. Maybe because she needs to create something beautiful in a place designed to destroy beauty. And Mother Sophia, Amina, they call her now, though she doesn't answer to it in her heart, she scratches words, Greek letters, a phrase from the Gospel of John, Phos en diskotia pheni. The light shines in the darkness. It takes her weeks. She works on it in stolen moments. A few letters each night. The stone is hard. Her fingernails break and bleed. But she keeps scratching. Because if they're going to die in this place, and they know they probably will, they're going to leave evidence. They're going to leave a mark that says, we existed, we resisted. We refused to disappear. Jump forward. 1,187 years. In 2009, a team of archaeologists is excavating the ruins of the Abbassid palace complex in Samarra, north of Baghdad. The site has been looted, bombed, built over, and forgotten. But underneath centuries of rubble, the foundations remain. They're mapping the palace's substructure, servant quarters, storage rooms, the hidden architecture that supported the glory above. During one excavation, they break through a collapsed wall. Behind it, a small chamber, 8 feet across, low ceiling. The floor is dirt, packed hard by time. One of the archaeologists shines a flashlight on the walls and stops. The walls are covered in scratches, hundreds of them, tiny crosses carved into plaster that has somehow survived 13 centuries. Greek letters, Syriac script, tally marks, and in the center, still barely visible, a phrase in Greek, Phos en diskotia pheni. The light shines in the darkness. The team photographs everything. They bring in specialists, epigraphers who can read ancient Greek, historians who study the Abbasid period, conservation experts who can date the plaster. The evidence is clear. This chamber was used, probably for years, by Christian captives, the crosses, the Greek and Syriac writing. The quote from John's Gospel. All of it points to a secret chapel hidden beneath the palace. They find other traces, soot on the ceiling from candles, wax residue mixed with herbs, the kind of candles monks and nuns made in monasteries' pottery shards that could have been used to carve the crosses. And in the corner, carved with extraordinary precision, a small bird, wings spread, as if about to fly. The archaeologists cross-reference the discovery with historical sources. They find a 9th century Byzantine chronicle that mentions religious captives taken from the frontier and sent to Baghdad. They find a letter from a Syrian bishop to the Patriarch of Constantinople, dated around 850, warning about nuns captured during raids. They find an Abbassid administrative document, fragmentary, damaged, that lists female prisoners from monastic communities assigned to palace service. The pieces fit together. This chamber was almost certainly used by Christian women captured during the Abbasid-Byzantine wars. Women like the ones from our story, women who refused to convert. Women who carved their faith into stone where they thought no one would ever see it. One archaeologist, Dr. Layla Haddad, who led the excavation, wrote in her report, "What we found was not just a room. It was an act of defiance frozen in stone. These women knew they would probably die in captivity, but they left a message for us. They left proof that they existed, that they resisted, that they refused to be erased. The chamber is now preserved, protected. It's not open to tourists. The site is still too unstable, but the photographs have been published. The crosses are documented. The Greek phrase has been translated and shared. After 1,187 years, someone finally found them. Of the 21 women who entered that hidden chapel, we know the fate of none with certainty. The Abbassid records don't list individual deaths, they list disposals. An administrative document from 852, preserved in the archives of the Topkapi Palace, includes a single line in neat Arabic script. Unproductive captives removed from palace service. Total, 37 individuals. Disposition, transferred to secondary labour or removed from records. Removed from records is a euphemism. It means dead. It means buried in unmarked graves outside the city. It means erased. Sister Helena, Fatima, they called her, probably died first. She was already 70 when captured. 3 years of hard labour in palace basements would have broken her body, even if her spirit held firm. She likely died quietly, overnight, and was disposed of before sunrise. Sister Miriam, Zara they called her, might have lasted longer. She was young, strong. But the letter from the Syrian bishop mentions seeing a young woman from the frontier convents who had lost her reason after years of captivity. Could have been her. Could have been dozens of others. Mother Sophia, Amina they called her, the one who never spoke again after that night in Khalid's tent. She might have lived the longest. Silent, hollow, moving through her duties like a ghost, until one day her body simply stopped, gave up, let go. The Abbasid system didn't require cruelty to be effective. It just required efficiency. Feed captives enough to keep them working. Work them until they break. Dispose of the broken ones. Replace them with new captives from the next frontier raid. It was a machine. And machines don't care about individual suffering. They just process inputs into outputs. But here's what the Abbasids didn't account for. Some marks can't be erased. Some messages outlast empires. Some voices refuse to be silenced, even across 13 centuries. That hidden chapel remained. Long after the nuns died. Long after the guards who watched them died. Long after the caliph who ordered their capture died. Long after the Abbasid Empire itself fell to the Mongols in 1258. The crosses remained. The Greek phrase remained. The bird with spread wings remained. And in 2009, someone found them. So why does this story matter? Because it's not about Islam. It's not about Christianity. It's about what power does when it tries to erase people, and what happens when those people refuse to disappear. The Abbasid Caliphate lasted 508 years, 5 centuries. It was the most sophisticated empire of its age. It built the House of Wisdom. It preserved Greek philosophy. It invented algebra and mapped the stars. It created art and architecture that still makes us gasp. And in its basements, women scratched crosses into stone with their fingernails. Both things are true. That's the hardest part. The same civilization that produced Al-Khwarizmi's mathematics also produced the system that turned human beings into assets to be processed and disposed of. The same administrative genius that organized libraries and hospitals also organized the efficient capture and erasure of conquered peoples. This is not unique to the Abbasids. Every empire does this. Rome, Byzantium, the Ottomans, the British. Every system that achieves greatness does so, at least in part, by consuming those at the margins. But here's what empire builders never understand. You can conquer land. You can rewrite histories. You can burn libraries and melt crosses and force people to speak new names. You can take everything from them, their homes, their families, their bodies, their freedom. But you cannot take what people carry inside. You cannot silence what they scratch into stone. 21 women, whose names we'll never know for certain, refused to disappear. They gathered in a hidden room beneath one of the world's greatest palaces and prayed in a language they were forbidden to speak. They carved crosses into walls they knew might never be found. They held communion with stolen bread and whispered verses from memory. They did this knowing they would probably die, knowing no one would rescue them, knowing their own families would never learn what happened to them. But they did it anyway. Because faith, real faith, not the performed kind, is not about hoping for rescue. It's about refusing to surrender who you are, even when surrender is the only logical choice. The Abbasid Empire fell in 1258 when Mongol armies sacked Baghdad. The Tigris reportedly ran black with ink from all the books they threw in the river. The palaces burned. The caliphs were executed. The glory ended. But that phrase on the wall survived. The light shines in the darkness. Think about that. An empire that spanned 3 continents, that commanded armies and scholars and wealth beyond measure, that reshaped the world against women with nothing but fingernails and faith. And the women won, not in the way empires measure victory. They didn't reclaim their convent. They didn't convert their captors. They didn't live to see freedom. But they left a mark, and 13 centuries later, we found it. You just did what they prayed someone would do. You looked backward and found them. You listened to their story. You learned their names, or the names we've given them, since their real names are lost. You witnessed their resistance. You remembered them. That's what they wanted. Not rescue, not revenge, just memory. Just the simple human dignity of not being completely erased. If this story shook you, if it made you angry or sad or amazed or all 3, that means their resistance worked. 1,187 years later, it still works. History is written by the victors, but memory is written by the survivors. And sometimes survival looks like a cross carved in the dark where no one was supposed to see it. A prayer whispered in a language the conquerors tried to silence. A bird scratched into stone to remember flight. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." These women lived forward into darkness. They walked for days, knowing they might not survive. They crossed rivers in chains, knowing what waited on the other side. They descended into palace basements, knowing they might never see sunlight again. But they carved their prayers anyway, trusting that someone, someday, would look backward and find them. You just did. If stories like this remind you how fragile memory is, how easily voices can be erased, how important it is to dig beneath the official histories, then subscribe, not for us, for them. for the voices that were swallowed by silence, but left echoes we can still hear if we listen carefully enough. Comment below, what part of this story hit you hardest? The march, the hidden chapel, the discovery 13 centuries later? Your words help these stories reach more people. Help more people remember. And remember this, the Abbasid Caliphate is gone. Its palaces are ruins. Its glory is memory. But those scratches in the stone remain. That Greek phrase, barely visible after 1,187 years, still speaks. Phos en diskotia pheni. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The nuns of the convent of the Holy Cross were meant to disappear. That was the plan. Capture them, convert them, break them, erase them. Turn them into footnotes in Abbasid ledgers, make them ghosts. But they didn't disappear. They're still here. In those crosses, in that chapel, in the Greek phrase that refused to fade. And now they're here with you. Because you listened. Because you remembered. Because you refused to let their silence be the final word. Subscribe to keep stories like this alive. Because some voices deserve to be heard. Even if they were silenced 13 centuries ago. Especially then. The light shines in the darkness, and you just proved it.